Hello, and in this video presentation we are going to start looking at what the main ideas are found in the Banks book. And we specifically are going to be looking at his recommendations for teaching historical and multicultural perspective. There will be several videos for the remainder of the course that will start going back and reviewing some of the important ideas which he is presenting. This is just starting the tip of the iceberg, so to say. So moving on. Don't want to move on. Here we go. The goals of a multicultural curriculum. And in that first two chapters, he is giving a tremendous amount of goals of what we should be doing in the curriculum. So while you are starting to examine how you can move your curriculum in social studies to represent more multiculturalism or a wider perspective, these are some things that you can keep in mind. The first one is he believes that the multicultural curriculum is to educate citizens in a diverse society that requires students to develop decision-making and social action skills so they can take personal action to make the United States and the world more democratic and humane. And you will see that this first goal really is striving towards that social action approach, which is that level 4 which he talks about. Another goal is to help students view historical and contemporary events from diverse ethnic and cultural perspectives, clarify their ethnic and cultural identities, and function effectively within their own cultural communities. And this is something that you can do really right off the bat, understanding your school, understanding your building, understanding where your students are coming from as you are teaching in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade. You can start bringing in current events and how it relates to the social studies which you are teaching, and getting the different perspectives of how different groups felt about different things. And again, you're going to be looking at it as the different groups come to the United States and become American citizens, and then how is their presence here shaping what it means to be an American citizen, and how does it impact different people's lives. And a really great example, which is going to be in the news tremendously when we get back to school, is going to be the presidential campaign and the different groups, who's supporting who, why are they supporting who, what are the issues which are important to them. So this is a great time to bring in a lot of different perspectives. Another goal is to reduce ethnic and cultural encapsulation, meaning that you're widening people's perspective, and you're helping students to develop a better understanding and awareness of their own cultures. And again, I said I had taught at the Lakeland Copper Beach, not taught, but I was an administrator for the Lakeland Central School District, which is a predominantly white district, which had a very heavy percentage of the students who came from Italian descent. So there was a lot of pressure by the community to make sure that there was some ethnic ties, the Italian tie, in the school district. And one way that they reached out to the community and took advantage of that was teaching Italian, but also in the 7th and 8th grade, especially more so in the 8th grade, when they went into World War I or World War II or the Great Depression and the Cold War and so forth. They would look at what how the Italian community felt about certain issues, going to war in World War I or World War II, or how did they support the war, how did they not support the war. And that's a really probably not anything that many of you are dealing with when you're talking about inner city schools which have extreme ethnic diversity or racial diversity. But you get the idea. You have to work with the school that you're working in, and you're making sure that they are being exposed to a variety of different ideas and perspectives, not just their own, but others as well. Also, provide students with cultural and ethnic alternatives. So really what you're doing is you're making sure that they have choice, that they are being presented with different perspectives or different attitudes, different ways of thinking or handling. If you are looking at holidays like Thanksgiving, to say how do other cultures possibly celebrate that particular holiday. Yes, it's an American holiday, but what does it mean to people who have come to this country at different times in our history, and what does Thanksgiving mean to them? I know my family is Polish, and my first husband, his family just had arrived to the United States in 1962. They had a totally different perspective of what Thanksgiving meant than my family, who was also Polish, but we arrived, my family arrived in 1914. So here we are both Polish, but the groups had arrived to this country at different times, so the celebration of Thanksgiving was different. Even though it was an American holiday. So you want to talk to your students about things like that. You also want to help students view events, concepts, issues, and problems from diverse cultural and ethnic perspectives. Things like pollution, things like recycling, things like presidential elections, the 99%, all of those different types of things. You're helping students to see how is it impacting different groups. To transform the challenges of racial, ethnic, and cultural and language diversity into educational and social opportunities. So how can students learn from each other within your culture? To foster unity within diversity by helping all students to develop a thoughtful commitment to the overarching American identity that we all share, while respecting and incorporating diversity into the school culture and curriculum. And one of the things that I always stressed is, how are we the same? And how can we respect our differences in order to celebrate the fact that we're all American citizens? So that's really what you're striving for. So you are respecting the differences, but also using the differences in order to build a stronger community. And that's something that you can do no matter what subject level you might be teaching in school. He also goes on to say to create a curriculum that reflects the culture, values, and goals of the groups within a nation, to contribute to the development of a healthy nationalism and nationalist identity. So again, what does it mean to be an American if you are an African American? What does it mean to be an American if you are Polish? What does it mean to be an American if you have Chinese descent or Japanese descent? So these are all things that you're going to be talking to your students about. Another goal he is saying, again, this is all Banks, is to help students develop cross-cultural competency, which consists of the abilities, attitudes, and understandings students need to function effectively within the American national culture, within their own ethnic sub-societies, and within and across different ethnic sub-societies and cultures. And you really, these are good conversations to have. You know, what are they feeling? What are they hearing when they see a Muslim woman dressed in traditional garb walk through the grocery store, or walk through the streets? Or what does it mean when they see a African American dressed in their contemporary their garb as well? So what are they thinking? How are they developing an understanding of the different cultures which are surrounding them? And I was just in New York City the last 2 days, and amazing just to see how people are dressed, the different languages which are being spoken. They live in this, so how are they handling in this? What's coming out as a result of this? Another goal is to enable students to derive valid generalizations and theories about the characteristics of ethnic, cultural, and religious groups, and to learn how they are alike and different in both the past and the present. And again, those are very good topics of discussion, comparing and contrasting. How are we the same? How are we different? How do we all contribute to this idea of being an American? And two other things is to help students expand their conceptions of what it means to be human, which is the whole purpose of social studies, to accept the fact that ethnic minority cultures are functional and valid, that we don't put down one group over another group, that we don't value the Anglo-Saxon Protestant ideal that started this country, but that we are accepting of everyone that has come and what they've contributed to it. The whole idea of the melting pot versus the salad bowl mentality. How do we look at things? And then to realize that a culture can be evaluated only within a particular cultural content. And then to help students master essential reading, writing, and math skills, and to import skills of the content areas. And important skills of the content areas. So all of this are the goals of the multicultural curriculum. And while we're not going to go through every individual one, you'll see that as we are looking at different strategies through Robert Marzano, we can see how we can become more sensitive to the multicultural curriculum. And even though we don't have a national curriculum, and New York State does not specifically have a multicultural curriculum, there are going to be opportunities where you can expand the curriculum, especially based on what district that you're in, to incorporate more of this multiculturalism either in your projects or in your units that you're doing, the articles which you're presenting, the perspectives that you are having the students work with. So there's a lot that you can do even within our very structured curriculum that we have in New York State. Now, different approaches to adding multiculturalism. The first two, Banks is saying this is what we already do and we need to go beyond this, that multiculturalism is much more than this. And the first approach which he introduces us to is the contributions approach. And that is when we just focus on individual heroes, or we look at individual holidays, and we just are quickly giving honor to a particular cultural group by, in February we study who Oprah Winfrey is, or in March we study who Elizabeth Cady Stanton is. So it's more than that. It's really, he's saying this is good, but we should be doing so much more than this. And then he's also saying that this is a time period when we possibly put in discrete cultural elements without changing the structure of the curriculum, where we might, we study what Hanukkah is, we study what Kwanzaa is, and we're really not changing the whole curriculum. We're just quickly introducing students to what's happening. The other approach is the additive approach, and we're seeing that there are many more teachers which are doing the additive approach, because there's so much that we have to cover as far as content is concerned. A lot of times the additive approach is the easiest way in order to bring some multiculturalism into the curriculum that we're teaching. But it's really, you're taking content, concepts, themes, perspectives, and they're added to the curriculum without changing its structure. A lot of times this is known as sprinkling the curriculum. And a lot of times this shows up with maybe a particular project that the students have to complete. Maybe it is the adding of a book, which brings in a different perspective. And you're going to see a lot of times I'm using the American Revolution as an example, but two books that bring in a different perspective of what's happening is My Brother Sam is Dead. This is a book I particularly don't like, being a global student. It's telling me what's happened. My brother Sam is going to die, and I don't have anything to look forward to. The book that I really enjoyed for the American Revolution is Johnny Tremain. It has a lot of images. It has a lot of nice language. It really gets into the ideals of the American Revolution. But you're going to see that this really is for a higher level reader. But one of the things that I did as a curriculum director at the Lakeland Central School District, the Lakeland Copper Beach Middle School is the building I was working with, is they took Johnny Tremain and they read it out loud to the students in the self-contained social studies English classroom. The students loved it. They were being read to. They were reading a book that the other classes were not reading. They really were able to imagine what was going on in the American Revolution. They were able to identify what they were learning in class to what was going on in this book. They were allowed to sketch what was happening as the teacher was reading the different sections of the book. So you can take a higher level book and you can present it to special education students at a lower level. You just have to be a little bit more creative in how you do it. And again, I think Johnny Tremain is a much better example of what the ideals and the values were of the American Revolution. If that is one of your essential questions, what are the ideals and the values of the American Revolution, and how does it impact the ideals and values of being an American today, reading that book is going to help students visualize and come up with some thinking more so than My Brother Sam is Dead. And that's just my biased opinion. The approach where Banks is really wanting us to go to is the transformative approach, and this is enabling students to view concepts, issues, events, and themes from the perspectives of diverse ethnic and cultural groups. And again, being very sensitive of who is making up your classroom. You know, what are the cultural and ethnic and racial differences within your classroom, and how can you infuse that into your curriculum? And a great way to do that is by presenting different perspectives, is infusing literature, whether it be an entire book or whether it be primary sources or articles, bringing in the art of the different groups that you're studying at this particular time and looking at their contributions not only through art but through music, and really how were they living during this time period? How were the issues of the American Revolution impacting women? How were the views of the American Revolution impacting the debate over slavery? How was it impacting slaves? So all of those things, and really looking at the perspectives of people who were living it on the inside and people who were on the outside. And really two great books for the Civil War, which come from two different perspectives, would be Uncle Tom's Cabin, written by Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was a woman who lived on the plantation but really was not very familiar with how the slaves were actually being treated, because she was really kept encapsulated or separated from what was actually happening. But she was imagining, and based on different things that she was picking up, she was able to come up with this story. And the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. And here we have someone who is a slave, who at the different treatment that he was experiencing by the different slave owners and who he belonged to at a particular time, how he taught himself how to read, and then how eventually he escaped and he came to New York and became the person that we know to be an abolitionist, him getting married, and his thinking towards the whole Civil War. So here you have two different perspectives talking about the same thing, but it's really coming from a different angle. And these are the types of things that you want to expose your student to. And if you can't afford to have them read the entire book, this is an opportunity for a project. They take one of these books and then they present it to the rest of the class, or you find chapters or sections of the book which are relevant to what you're teaching in the classroom, and you either design some kind of a small group project, or you do some reading out loud. And when we talk about reading, reading out loud, doesn't matter what age they are, students love it, especially in the middle school. It does give them nice, secure feelings of elementary school, but it also gives them a chance to sit back, close their eyes, and really come up with some good visuals of what it is that you're presenting to them. The other approach, which is that fourth level, which I encourage you to do if you can do it, especially if you're teaching current events. If you're teaching the 8th grade and you're getting into the 20th and the 21st century, the social action approach is a great approach to take with your students. It's requiring students to make decisions and take actions related to the concepts, issues, or problems that they are studying. If you're studying the civil rights movement, what are some things that students can do in order to combat racism? Or what can they do to combat prejudice, discrimination? So those are all things that you can do. And the book banks, this is the book that you should be reading. On page 22, there are some excellent examples of the social action approach. So go back over page 22, which will again give you a good idea of what's going on. The last approach that I want to talk about, where more and more teachers are turning to, especially in the middle school, is the interdisciplinary conceptual approach, or the interdisciplinary approach. Basically, concepts are viewed from the perspective of several disciplines and subject areas. This gives the students an opportunity to gain an understanding or experiences of diverse cultural and ethnic groups in the United States from a variety of different perspectives. So they see what this interdisciplinary approach. They can see, how does social studies relate to ELA, which tends to be the connection which is made most frequently, and you'll often see the social studies and the English teacher working together, and the students get that connection. But also, how can you bring in math? How can you bring in science? How can you bring in music? How can you bring in art? How can you bring in technology? So these are all the things which are also important and also very difficult for teachers to do. So let's quickly look at what are some pros and cons of interdisciplinary conceptual approach. First off, you really need to be on a team of teachers, which is going to, very often in middle school, you will have time scheduled for these teachers to come together and work. There's curriculum work, and it's time for teachers to collaborate, plan, and make appropriate connections. I think on the ongoing discussion board, I talked about how teams worked in Lakeland Copper Beach Middle School, where the teachers were scheduled time to work in their team. They had time on Fridays to work with their content teams. They met 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. All of the social studies teachers met a couple of times a year. The middle school and the high school social studies teachers got together possibly twice a year. And also they had time 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Social studies English teachers were able to get together so that they could do some cross-discipline work, and also then the math and the science teachers also had that opportunity. So you have to be very sensitive about giving teachers the time. One of the drawbacks of interdisciplinary work is it's very time consuming, and very often the time that you have within your school day isn't enough, and you're going to have to plan through your prep period. You're going to have to come together more than likely during your lunch, stay after school. I know some teams of teachers that get together on a Sunday, and they have lunch together on a Sunday, and they work at somebody's dining room table, and they'll come together. I know some teachers that come together during the summer, and they'll plan a unit. And because it's so time consuming, usually a team of teachers will start with one unit and they'll improve it over a couple of years. And this works really well if these teachers are allowed to stay together as a team for a long period of time. When I was the administrator for Pinewood Elementary School, it was a 3 through 5 building. There was a 5th grade team of teachers. There were 4 teachers that came together. They were called the Crow Team, and it was just the initial of their last letter. There was Coelho, Rushby, Ozinski, and Wagshaw. They were a team. They were called the Crow Team, and they stayed together. They were together for a 7-year time period, and because they had that consistent connection over 7 years, they were able to do some phenomenal things. So not only did they have one interdisciplinary unit, they actually were able to introduce several interdisciplinary units. Usually, if one goes really well, the teachers are excited and the administrators will support them to add another one. So usually you'll go from one per year to one per semester. You'll have it at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. And then if that goes really well, they'll be encouraged to develop some more. So then ideally you should have one per quarter. It's really hard to get 4 or more teachers to work together for more than that, because you each have your curriculum that you have to incorporate. But these are some things that you should be striving for. Another example, when I was up in the Mohonasen Central School District, which is outside of Albany, New York, the 6th grade teachers every year came together and they did a great unit, interdisciplinary unit on the Middle Ages, and they were able to bring in the math, and they were able to bring in the science and the English and the social studies, and they were able to bring in technology, because the 6th graders were, one of their classes was technology, and they had a great celebration at the end of it, and that was something that they all did. Now all of the teachers who were in that 6th grade have been moved to other grade levels, and that project has disappeared because the new teachers coming on didn't want to take another group of teachers' ideas or curriculum, so now they're starting all over again. But that gives you an example of some things that are happening. So this is the beginning part of us going through banks. There will be more as we go through, and again, there's a lot coming at you. You have Marzano's work coming at you, you have banks, which is the heart of this curriculum. You have Shapen and all of the things that she's presenting to you. And then I've also put learning styles in this. So there's a lot of things which are coming at you. But you'll see it does come together for presenting a multicultural curriculum, whether you are specifically looking at the additive approach, or you are transitioning to the transformational approach where you are looking at different perspectives. All of this comes together, and anything that you do, the big thing here is you start doing something every year. You'll see that your curriculum is going to get stronger and stronger as the time goes by. That's going to keep you growing as a professional. This is something that you can use in your domain 3 as far as your reflection and what is it that you want to focus on in your own professional development, and how do you want to improve as a teacher. So these are all good things to be looking at as you go from being a novice teacher to becoming a veteran teacher, and hopefully keeping your profession alive and keeping that passion going like you always have for 35 years that you've been teaching. And these are the things that are going to keep that alive for you. So this is it for this video, and I'll see you in the next